Picture this. It's October 22nd, 1979, in the sleepy town of Linwood, Washington. The streets are quiet, the night is still. Inside a modest home, 24-year-old Susan Schwarz is winding down, maybe sipping a cup of tea, unaware that a shadow is creeping closer. A shadow that will snuff out her life in a way so brutal, it will haunt this town for decades. This isn't just a murder mystery, it's a puzzle that took 32 years to solve. With twists so wild, even the sharpest detectives couldn't see them coming. Welcome to the story of the Queen of Hearts. That night, Susan Schwarz was found lifeless in her own home, bound with rope, dragged from her bathroom, and shot twice in the head, execution style. The killer tried to stage it as a robbery, but here's the kicker. Nothing was stolen, no forced entry. This wasn't random, it was personal. The question was, who hated Susan enough to do this? Back in '79, we didn't have DNA or fancy tech. A crime like this, up close, deliberate, it screamed someone she knew. But every suspect we chased led nowhere. It was like the killer vanished into thin air. Investigators hit wall after wall. Susan's father, Henry, and her brother Gary begged for answers, but the case slipped into the shadows, growing colder with each passing year. For over 3 decades, it sat in a dusty file, one of 60 unsolved murders in Snohomish County. Was justice lost forever? Not quite. Enter 2008. The Snohomish County Cold Case Unit, led by Detective Jim Scharf, wasn't ready to let Susan's story end. But with faded evidence and no witnesses, they needed something radical. And radical they got. A deck of playing cards. Each card showcased an unsolved case. And Susan Schwarz, she was the Queen of Hearts. We figured the answers were out there, maybe locked in the mind of some inmate doing time. These cards weren't just paper, they were a psychological weapon. Get them into the right hands, and someone might talk. Thousands of these decks flooded Washington's prisons. A long shot? Sure. But sometimes, the wildest bets pay off in spades. 2011, inside a prison cell, an inmate flips through the deck and stops cold. Susan's face stares back at him. Whispers from decades past flood his memory. A murder he'd heard about. A name he couldn't shake. He dials the tip line, and the dominoes start to fall. I was there. I saw him do it, tie her up, shoot her like she was nothing. He said he'd kill me if I talked. For 32 years, I lived with that nightmare. That call led to a woman who'd been just 18 when Susan died. She'd dated the killer, Gregory Johnson, and watched in terror as he unleashed his rage. Why the silence? Fear. Johnson's threats had chained her tongue until that Queen of Hearts set her free. Silence in these cases isn't cowardice, it's survival. But time erodes fear. That card wasn't just a clue, it was a lifeline, whispering, "You're not alone anymore." April 2011. Detectives swoop in and arrest Gregory Johnson, now 58, outside his Seattle apartment. The evidence mounts, witness testimony, a motive rooted in revenge. Susan had helped Johnson's wife escape his abuse, and he'd nursed that grudge until it exploded. In 2012, Johnson confesses, guilty of second-degree murder, life in prison, with at least 24 years to rot. For Susan's family, it's a wound reopened, then finally stitched shut. This wasn't just a win for the law, it was a masterclass in tenacity, a vendetta, a card trick, and 3 decades of patience. That's how you catch a ghost. Susan Schwartz's story isn't just a solved case. It's a beacon, a deck of cards, a whisper from the past, and the courage of one woman turned despair into justice. So next time you hear about an unsolved mystery, ask yourself, what if the key is out there, waiting? Speak up, share this story. Because every cold case is a family still holding their breath.